So welcome to Holistic Care Happy Pets, Enriching Pet Health. I'm Dr. Jeff Grognet, and with me is Donna Middleton. Donna's journey into raw feeding started 13 years ago when she adopted a pup with some minor health issues that evolved into developing a very thin coat and shy behavior. Two things there. It was suggested that she put the dog on raw diet, and that proved to make a huge difference both in the coat and the behavior. Wanting to explore it further, Donna took the plunge into 2.5 years of education with the Companion Animal Science Institute and graduated with honors. To add to this, she's participated in an additional 10 years worth of health summits in both the human and the dog world. Donna finally felt she had something that was worth learning about and sharing with other pet parents, and she's built a thriving business around this knowledge. So welcome, Donna.
Thank you, Jeff. It's an honor to be here and a part of your summit.
Okay, so anyway, the thing that you're going to be talking about is the impact of food on behavior. And you've got a couple of examples that you can share with us. So what's the first one?
Well, the first one was that particular dog before I knew anything. Once we got her onto a healthy species appropriate diet, she became more confident. She wanted to learn. She was a cattle dog mix. I started putting her in classes. The more I taught her, the more she learned, and her confidence just built. And I thought that was just a coincidence. And then in one of my agility classes, one of my classmates, I was sharing with her the story of Sadie and her confidence and the raw feeding. And she says, She says, I've got a really shy dog at home. She says, Taz, she doesn't like to, participate in family gatherings. She goes and hides behind the couch. When we take her for a walk, she is not paying any attention to her surroundings. She focuses on directly what's in front of her. She doesn't smell. She doesn't pee. She's not investigating her surroundings. She says, I'm going to try her on raw. And I said, oh, okay, well, let me know how that goes. So 2 weeks later, she comes to class. She goes, I can't believe the difference in Taz. I'm going, well, what? Tell me. She goes, we went for a walk today. She goes, she's smelling things, she's looking at things, she's investigating the bushes, she's investigating other dogs. She says, and we had family over, and she says she came in out and said hello. And I said, well, did you do anything else other than change the diet? She goes, nope. And I says, wow. And this was early on in my learning, and I was like, wow, what a tremendous change.
Yeah.
So that's, that was my initial the light bulb went off. A few years later, I was at Winnipeg Animal Services, where they had dogs in, their little enclosures. And there was this young 4-month-old pup who was just spinning and spinning and spinning in his little enclosure. And they couldn't get weight on him. So I said, he needs to be put into a proper foster home. So I reached out to a rescue group that I'm associated with, and I said, hey, if we pull this dog from the animal services, I would foster him. Can we take him under your umbrella? And they said, absolutely. So we pulled this dog out. First thing I did was bring him home. He gets into my house and he starts spinning and he's spinning and he's spinning. And I was like, put him onto a raw diet. And it didn't happen overnight, Jeff. It took, it probably took a couple of weeks of him calming down, getting used to the surroundings and the diet and some supplements I put in. And that spinning stopped. And I was like, this is good. He was still an anxious dog. And a couple months later, we were at an adoption fair, and a fella found him and said, I'd like to adopt him. And I said, okay. He's on a raw diet. He has some anxiety. I suggest you take some time off work when you bring him home to spend some time with him and get him accustomed to the surroundings. Well, that didn't happen. He brought him home, put him in a crate, put him on kibble, and went to work. Poor Bentley, he lost his mind and he tore apart the crate and did some damage to the house. And so I got a call saying he has to come back into rescue. And there was some discussions that weren't too pleasant between me and the rescue. They were wanting to do other things, and I was like, no, I can handle this. Let me do this. And they go, no, we got to put him back on kibble. You can't put him in a home unless, you know, he's already accustomed to the kibble. And this was still early on in my learning career, because this is 10 years ago, Jeff. And so I said, okay. So I said, give me some kibble. They gave me kibble. The first ingredient was corn. And
that's the good quality stuff, right?
That's
Yeah.
And poor Bentley, his anxiety, I could not get it under control. It was awful. And it got so bad that he came over, or my neighbor came over one day, and she was just standing in my yard, and Bentley started doing circles around my yard, laps. And as he ran by her, he grabbed her pant leg. And I was like, oh, this isn't good. So I contacted the rescue, and they go, yeah, he's not adoptable. I'm going, yeah, he is. Let me go back and do my thing. No, he's not adoptable. And I was like, so finally, after some argument, I said, give me some time. They go, you'll never find anybody that will do what you do. I said, just let things pan out. So I put him back on the raw, put him back on the supplements, got him back under control. During that time, Jeff, we were very blessed to have a man reach out who was interested in him, and he was a retired cop. He was spending time at home, and because I was doing some music therapy with him, as well as the diet, I had mentioned this to this fella, and he says, well, you know, I'm a musician with the symphony. And I was like, wow. And I also feed raw to my previous dog, so I'm already familiar with feeding raw. And I was like, 2 check marks, yes. And are you familiar with Tellington Touch?
Yes.
Okay, so I was learning about Tellington Touch as another way to deal with Bentley's anxiety and doing the ear, you know,
Right.
things in the body work and stuff like that. So I was working on that with him as well, because each time we put him on kibble and brought him back, it was harder to turn him around, Jeff.
Oh yeah.
It was more, it was, you know, his anxiety had gotten worse. So I was telling this man about the Tellington Touch, and he said, well, I'm not familiar with that. He says, let me look it up. So he looks it up, and he says, oh, this is easy to do. He says, I can do this at home. I says, yeah, you can. He says,
Yeah.
well, I'd like to do a trial with him. So I says, let me contact the rescue and put you in touch with them. And so this gentleman did take him for trial, and he ended up adopting him. And about 4 weeks later, I get a message from this gentleman, and he says, you know, Bentley's starting to spin again. And I said, did you change the diet? He goes, no. I says, anything different in his diet? He says, well, I'm making him some homemade treats. And I said, well, what are the ingredients? He says, well, wheat and honey and applesauce. And I went, bingo. I says, it's the wheat. I says, take him off of that and let me know how it goes. So sure enough, the spinning stopped, the anxiety calmed down again. And he's had a great life. I went and had visited with him about 3 years ago. I connected with him, and he says, hey, come on over for tea. He says, and come and see Bentley. And so this is like 7 years later, and Bentley is still doing well. He's, you know, he has his moments. If he gets into something he shouldn't eat. So there's definitely a connection between what he eats and his behavior and how it affects the brain.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Bentley is, I'll call it that breed, and that is you're dealing with a herding breed.
Right.
And they're designed to be ready to go, like boom.
Yeah.
That's their forte. You know, and that is, we call it they're sleeping in the barn, and then they go, and they go to work, and then they go back to sleeping in the barn. That's the ideal, okay, and that's what we should be doing, okay. But as soon as you change that, and that is, gee, I'm sorry you're not getting 6 hours exercise today, Bentley. Then you start getting these other behaviors. I was in the spinning, and spinning is a pain. It's very hard to get under control, and a lot of times it's trying to get them to settle, and then it's medication and things like that. So we don't have a magic pill for spinning. So the fact that nutrition can have that much of an impact I'll qualify it in this particular dog, because it's not the end all for every dog that's spinning.
No,
because there's a shepherd that I've dealt with for probably about 8 years now, and it came to the owner as a spinner. And this dog was such a spinner, it would actually grab its tail and then just keep going around in circles.
Yeah, Bentley did that too.
Yeah, but he damaged his tail in the process.
Oh no.
Okay. Wow. So but he actually had a fracture in his tail, which brought up the question: is that the reason he went after it, or did he cause that? Don't know. Don't know.
Yeah.
But the thing is, and way back, food has been linked to behavior. And actually, I wrote a paper in the Canadian Veterinary Journal about that. And it was specifically about changing diet for quote, aggression. Okay. So anyway, I'm glad Bentley turned around on this. I mean, that's
well, I do have a case. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but also the thing that you said is that, gee, you can change the behavior, but if you go back to the old diet, it's back.
It's back, right?
And then you got to work on it again.
Right. And I do have an aggression case that was more recently.
Yeah.
The lady did write a whole story about it. You'll find it on my blogs, but it was a silver lab that she had hired me. Actually, she hired me because the silver lab had was chronic ear infections, skin problems, allergy type skin, and she had hired me to help with that in the dog. And she didn't tell me too much about the dog's aggression towards the family members until later. But 2 weeks into the change of the diet, because they put the dog on a species appropriate diet, along with some rebuilding the gut and dealing with leaky gut, which is, connected with ear infections and the skin. 2 weeks later into the protocol, she messages me. She says, hey, Levi seems to be less aggressive. And I said, well, that's fantastic. She says, do you think it could be the change in the diet? And I said, absolutely. So she says, well, and I didn't know this until that moment. She says, Levi has always been aggressive towards my son, and my son wants nothing more to do than love on this dog. And my son, loves dogs, and he volunteers at the rescues, at the shelters to help with the dogs. And he can't even hug our own dog because our own dog is so aggressive towards him. And she says, I've hired an in-home behaviorist to help us with this dog, and he couldn't even resolve the problem. She says, the fact that you've resolved this problem with just diet and rebuilding the gut, she says, I'm floored. And about 2 weeks later, she sends me pictures of the son and the dog hugging each other. And she says, I'm in tears. She says, I've never expected to see this. She says, this has been a profound change. And she says, yes, the ear infections in the skin are getting better too.
Yeah, by the way.
But the behavior change, she says, I did not expect this. And you can read her whole story on this, on my website, but they had actually considered euthanizing this dog at one point because it was so aggressive towards her son.
Yeah. What we're now getting in terms of the holistic practitioners and the way they're researching is that diet obviously changes the microbiome. And the microbiome seems to be the thing that's linked more directly to behavior. And so what they're also doing now is they call it microbiome transfer. In other words, feeding poop from one dog to another dog. And if you have a dog that is aggressive, if you give it poop from a dog that isn't aggressive, it can actually modify its behavior.
Wow.
But the key is you need the substrate there. You need the base diet sorted out.
Yes.
And so that ties in with exactly what you're talking about in both of your cases, Donna.
Right.
And that is, hey, by changing the diet, you're using the diet, I can vaguely call it as a prebiotic.
Yes.
Therefore, you're getting your microbiome sorted out inside the dog, which then is reflected in the behavior of the dog. It's I mean, it's a fascinating world, and you're seeing papers on it here and there that hey, yeah, that's having an effect. And there's a fair, especially with I call it timidity, a dog just being scared. That is a big one for microbiome transfer. So,
and the gut brain connection, right?
Yeah,
between
exactly.
The gut and the brain, and they're learning more and more about how profound that connection is.
Yeah. So with your diets, you're talking strictly a raw diet is the solution, Donna?
I put them generally on strictly a raw diet, but then we're also rebuilding the gut microbiome too with appropriate probiotics and prebiotics, and doing a little bit of cleanse of toxins, because as you know, certain toxins can cross the brain barrier. So there's a combination of things. But with my earlier cases, those were just diet only. Those were only diet changes that made those, behavior changes, putting them onto a species appropriate diet, because the species appropriate diet is so much easier to digest and absorb the nutrients. It's, it's like, I always use the analogy, it's like, you going to McDonald's and eating McDonald's every day for your life and going home and taking a multivitamin and say, okay, I'll be healthy now because I took a multivitamin with McDonald's. Well, it's processed. And can your body absorb and benefit from that? Well, everybody's answer was no. And I'm going, well, so why would it benefit your dog? Right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I always look at it from the standpoint that if you eat and drink really healthy, you probably don't need much in the way of supplements, right? But when they're on a kibble diet, commercial kibble diet, put it this way, the supplements probably will help some, but in terms of going all the way, we can't get there.
No,
you can't supplement a bad diet.
No, you can't. You can't fix processed food. And, my apologies for using McDonald's as an example. That's just one that everybody can relate to. Because we all like that once in a while, but you can't live on it.
Now and then, hey, when I was in my 20s at university, McDonald's was a staple food.
Yeah, me too.
And I was young and I could take it. But once you get older, you get wiser, and your guts aren't as happy anymore.
Yeah, and your health tells you to do something different. Yeah, I totally relate.
Okay, so do you have another case for us, Donna?
Those were the most profound cases I have. All the other ones are like minor cases, working on dogs skin issues along with ear infections and that, and just balancing out the microbiome, and the people in general saying, hey, my dog seems to be more content, happier, is not having some dogs we call the zoomies, late at night when they're supposed to be sleeping. And it's like children, if you're going to give children candy before bed, what's going to happen? Right? They're going to get the zoomies, they're going to get, I can't sleep thing. And so as soon as you put a child on, more healthy diet, that can affect, their energy and calm them down and make them more, bearable for some of the kids. But with dogs, it affects them too. And some of the kibble have dye in them. Like they put little colored, red and orange to make it look pretty for us. And that dye can affect the brain and the behavior as well. Particularly red.
That's where you go. You mean the dye doesn't make it healthier?
No. There's studies and warnings on about red dye affecting the brain and the behavior.
Yeah, that's true.
So and it's they put it in dog food.
Yeah, put it this way, the dog doesn't care what color the kibble is, but you do. So therefore you think that you're feeding something better. Yeah. So if I came to you with my dog and it's got skin problems, ear problems, and it's shy and stuff like that, and like you're talking about a raw diet, I just want to explore this one little thing just for everyone watching, and that is, what would you tell me in terms of feeding raw? What would be the go-to recipe for that or something?
Well, usually with allergies, I like to go to a single protein and keep it really simple at first. And so I suggest a single protein. I suggest, there's some, in our area, we've got some good pet stores that carry a good selection of pre-made raws, and so some of them are just the protein. So I say go to that protein, stick with that, and then work into adding in some of the, your vegetables and your fibers and stuff like that. And then there's some companies that the dogs can go on that can I mention brand names?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, so Iron Will recently came out with a raw diet both for puppies and adults that is AFCO standards. So which is, it makes a lot of people more comfortable. They don't have to add anything. It's got your kelp in there. It's got your, your some of your added vitamin D and E and stuff like that in there. So that makes it easy for people to transition from just throwing something into a bowl to, okay, I just have to thaw this and put it into a bowl, rather than the DIY make. I myself do a lot of the DIY, do it yourself, but a lot of people are going, I don't have time to do that. I don't have time to source. I don't have time to figure this all out and weigh it all out and blah, blah, blah. So some of the companies, if you do your research, have done that for you. So Iron Will is one of them. They've got the basics, and then they've got what they call the canine balanced. And Big Country Raw also has some that is NRC compliant. So that's another step forward. So Canada is moving forward in their raw diets, taking a step up. But other than that a plain one, I would recommend adding in your iodine, your omega-3 oils, your vitamin D's and E's and stuff like that.
Yeah. There's several vitamin mineral supplements that come as a batch that you can just shovel in, so to speak, and that's what I recommend a lot to my clients. But the point, this is the point, and when you first start on this journey, like you say, you're going to get a single protein and say, okay, feed that. You're not going to screw things up feeding even in an imbalanced diet for a month.
Exactly.
And the point with that is you can get started on it and then see, okay, where are we going? Is this working? Does my dog like it? Do I like preparing this? Then you can fine tune it. Right?
Always fine tune later. I always say, let's start here, and then you're comfortable with this, let's revisit and we can chat a little bit more about the fine tuning, give them, some more information. And we've got a couple of pet stores in our area that the staff are very knowledgeable, and and follow summits like yourself, and in different ones, and they're very willing to help out new clients. So yeah, I think this whole raw feeding is really on a good path, and it's become very popular.
Yeah, that's what our dogs and cats get, period.
Yeah.
And so many people, when we're walking, and like Shay will go up to people, and the comment usually is, "Wow, he has a great coat."
Right.
And how, and the thing is, then you can go one of two ways. They can go, well, I feed raw, and kind of hide that, especially being a veterinarian.
Yeah.
Or you can say, well, that's what you call a raw coat.
That's what I say.
That way you can learn a little bit, but it has big impacts for sure. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
and my clients will say the same thing. One of the first things they notice is the change in the coat and the skin.
Yeah, it's usually 2 weeks for sure.
Yeah, 2 weeks. Yeah,
you'll see it do the conversion, and it's just, and the way I look at it is this way: when you have your kibble fed dog, you can pet them, and then with a raw fed dog, you can pet them, and the difference is when you pet them, then you go like that. The raw fed doesn't have a smell.
No.
So
yeah.
So
and the show dogs, the people in the show world are spending a ton of money on products to make their dogs' coats look shiny and healthy. And you just change the diet, you don't need to spend so much.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. You don't need all the shampoos, conditioners, and all that stuff.
All the sprays and all. Yeah. No, and just change the diet, and you'll have, a good, healthy coat.
Okay. Okay. So any last words, Donna?
No, just, never stop learning, and always continue to look what's best for your dog, not necessarily what's comfortable for you. If you have questions, seek some professional help. Yeah, that's pretty much about it.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you for coming on board, Donna.
Well, thank you. It's been an honor.
You've got something that you're giving away to our watchers.
Yeah, I'm putting together a little ebook on the benefits of medicinal mushrooms for your pets, for dogs, and the first 25 clients will get a 25-gram medicinal mushroom package of mushrooms. I have 3 to choose from. Shipping won't be included in that, but the medicinal mushrooms, 25 grams, will be free for the first 25 people.
Sounds great. Okay, I'll set up that link down below the webinar, so everyone, you can just click on that.
Yeah.
And that way they can get in touch with you and get some ideas on where to go. And I'll also have your Donna's website is also below as well. So if you want to check out what she's doing, go there, and she's got the stories on these dogs there.
Yeah, Levi's stories on there with the pictures and all. I literally just brought tears to my eyes, that one. Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome. So thank you for watching, everyone. And so this one, you've learned a little bit about food and how it impacts on behavior. And so keep watching all the other webinars. I'll see you there.